Yep, sorry about that. Talking for long periods of time does tend to strange one's voice a little bit. Okay, so we got a mostly broken nightstick and all that, so let's grab one of our spares. Alright, need to put my helmet and stuff back on. Because it's cold outside and I would like the protection of the helmet. So that's all fine. No zombies in the immediate area that I see, so we are pushing back towards Riverside Country Club. Before I forget, turn on our radio in the car, which I have tuned into the emergency broadcast channel. For those new, there is a channel which the frequency is randomized every time you create your world of an automated emergency channel. It's the only radio station that will stay on forever, but it will tell you today's weather, tomorrow's weather, the status of the power grid, if it's good, if it's starting to fail, or if it's, actually failed. It'll also warn you of like storms, fog, rainfall, that kind of stuff. And it'll even warn you if the helicopter's about to show up. So it can be really useful. And the way you end up finding it... One moment. The way you end up finding it is if you check random radios, you can find it just like out in the world. I didn't see that zombie because it's busy trying to check stuff. One of the other good ways of finding it is if you climb into a car, every car has a radio in it that I've seen. Like I've never, like it could be that that's a possibility, but for the most part, I always see that. And that's what you're seeing right here is where it's saying the, they're expecting rain today. Tomorrow it's going to be super cold. It's going to be a little windy. I thought I saw another zombie. It's also going to rain. And I'm mostly watching to see if it says air activity detected. But if you climb in your car and push V and you choose device options, you can see it right down here where it says the frequency, automated emergency. That's how you find it. And once you know it, you can choose any radio and you can add it as a preset to tune into it. Yep, it is only randomly generated on the world creation. So if you die and you come back into the world, it'll still be whatever frequency it was previously in your world. It won't change on death. It's strictly when you make a new world. But yeah, so don't write down mine. While there is technically the chance we could have the same frequency, probably not. There are also hidden frequencies with radio stations that will play little bits of lore at very specific times and days and all that. I won't spoil any of that. If you want that spoiled, you can go to the wiki. But sometimes when you find a radio that says unknown radio station, there might be a chance you learn something from it. You might also just sleep through the entire broadcast that happens only once in the entire existence of that radio station and be totally bummed about not seeing it, but it happens. One thing this game does do pretty well is they don't outright say, here's the situation going on in the world around you. Is you catch up little bits and pieces on the different radio channels and the different television channels. So it never outright tells you exactly what's happening, but you get little bits and pieces about how things are playing out. But yeah, all radio stations and television channels do go out with the exception of the automated one after a certain point. And I mostly leave it on because I still haven't figured out the exact details on the cutoff for the helicopter, but I'm coming to believe that the helicopter alert tells you within 12 hours of what it's going to happen. I can't verify that. That's just anecdotally me looking at going, okay, we were after the flip of the day, we checked the radio, and then the helicopter showed up later in the day, but well after 12 hours. So that's the right theory. So that's one reason I like to just keep the radio on, is that way if I ever see air activity detected, it's drop everything I am doing, it's now survival mode time. Especially on these populations, like if I'm in the country club and I see that message, I want to get out of the country club as fast as possible until it's way more clear. Because you can imagine when we're probably looking at more than 1,000 zombies in that country club area, and if they all come to where I am standing, it will be a bad time. I'm known to fight large groups, but there are limits. And then we are killing all the zombies on the path. The idea is pretty much, if we keep running through here killing all zombies, eventually they stop showing up, so keep kill zombie. And plus, they always end up standing in the middle of the road, then you don't see them later in the night, and you smash into them in your van. That's one less zombie you're going to get credit for killing, and then plus you damage your vehicle. I saw you hiding in the tree. Oh, when you get a few points of nimble, I actually don't like demonstrating this, but they're a non-threat as long as they don't get behind me and they don't bump into anything. With 2 or 3 points of nimble, you just don't swing. I can do this all day, I'm safe. I'm gonna stop because I don't like doing it, because even though I know it's safe, I don't like it. I just wait for like the one time I say it and I bump into the smallest tree or something, and then, you know, slow down for that fraction of a second, and then it becomes very not safe very suddenly. But that all ties into the slow down. You don't need to run. When you panic, you make mistakes, and mistakes get you killed. So if you take your time, you'll do much better in surviving. Because like you walk faster than zombies. Like even when I start my character, they're obese, unfit, they're weak, and you know I have no skills trained, no running or anything. You still walk faster than zombies, so long as you're not overburdened or super exerted or something else that's like massively penalizing your character. So if you see a horde and you go, oh no, that's 20 zombies, I can't handle 20 zombies, walk away. Like know when it's time to turn your tail and just tuck it and walk. You know, yeah, they might push into where you were keeping all your stuff, but if you can walk away for today, you know, have enough food to survive the night or whatever, come back tomorrow, and then kill them all and take it. But if you get frustrated and you just throw yourself into the mix when you're tired and exhausted and get yourself killed, then you definitely don't get it tomorrow. Because that's kind of one of the big things in this game, is like knowing when to like fight your battles, when not to fight your battles, and all that. It's also a good idea, no matter what you're doing in the game, is to have an exit strategy. Alright, we've got Pankraru dropping some push-ups. But yeah, so have an exit strategy. That's also one of the reasons why I clear out all the zombies when I'm going in a direction, when I'm not doing respawns, and even a lot of time when I am doing respawns. Is because like if I'm fighting a big group of zombies up here, and I've cleared behind me, I know I can just keep backing out this way, and while I can't say it's safe, because you don't know it might move around behind you, it's fairly safe. Versus if I haven't cleared behind me, I don't know what I'm going to run into. So 1 pack of zombies can become 2 packs of zombies, can become 4 packs of zombies, and suddenly everything is gone, you know, gone to hell. Okay, and I need my character to drink something. I'm guessing both the water bottles are here. Is the problem? Yep. And that whole thing about where if you don't clear behind you, you end up not having a safe way to go. That's one reason I also don't recommend trying to be sneaky unless you have to. It's better to methodically kill zombies and, you know, work your way toward your destination than trying to creep around it. Again, unless you know you don't have weapons and all that kind of stuff. Just because the issue being, I sneak past 4 or 5 hordes of zombies, then I get spotted by one, you know, there was a corner I couldn't see around, I had to just take a chance and it doesn't work out. And now I'm backtracking through all the zombies that I snuck past, only now I don't get the leisure of being able to sneak. And so now I'm just getting all the zombies. Versus if you slowly and meticulously clear your way into town, there's no zombies to run into. So you can keep retreating as much as you need to. And that's actually why the start of 16x pop runs are so difficult, is just there isn't a safe place. You start and there isn't a place to back into because you haven't cleared anything yet, or do you have the weapons you need to be able to. Oh, and the thing that even people who've been playing the game for a long time miss is there is cruise control in the game. If you hit Shift W, it'll increment up by 5. I think it'll actually tell you here somewhere. But then if you Shift S, it'll increment down. You'll notice mine says a whole bunch of different letters. I actually don't use a QWERTY keyboard. I just happen to know what the keyboard buttons are for QWERTY. I use Dvorak, so it's a totally different set of buttons for me. But the point being cruise control. It's a thing. Love it. It'll save your life. Because your biggest danger in your car is yourself. It's one reason why a lot of people jokingly, and myself included, will say that Sunday driver is a buff, not a penalty. Now granted that's not entirely true, because like it penalizes your ability to tow and all that, but making it so you can't just go flying down the highway at 100 miles per hour will keep you from hurting yourself. So, for me, switching to Dvorak was trying to protect myself from repetitive stress injury. Just doing everything I can to reduce wear and tear on my wrists. So Dvorak, if you actually look at it, all the vowels on your left-hand side in your home row is the least harmful to your hands to use. And the most common consonants are on the right-hand home row side. And then they'd go like, whether up and down, you know, like have to reach your fingers up and down, which is worse for you, and basically try and lay out the keys based on what you're going to use the most or the least to be the most ergonomic. Because QWERTY keyboard, that layout was designed to prevent typing jams. So it's not efficient from the fact of like what's good for your wrists, it was efficient for what was designed to keep typewriters from jamming. And it just became de facto, and it's been around for so long that getting it to switch is very difficult. And I'm not saying that people should switch or anything like that. That's totally personal opinion. Relearning to type is a huge pain. So I actually have, in the past, taken the keyboard and just moved the keys around. The keyboard I have was when I was deliberately trying to learn Dvorak. I got a keyboard that doesn't have any letters printed on the keys whatsoever, so there is like zero question that I touch type, because I can look at it and go, yep, that's not going to help. So I do 100% touch type, because I can look at the keyboard all I want, and not going to be able to get any letters off it. Would I recommend doing that? Honestly, no. I don't think it was the best decision on how I approached it. Like, it did force me to touch type, which is good, but there are times it would be nice to be able to just look down and, like, see that my fingers are in the wrong position and stuff. Oh yeah, and that's the reasons why it's, like, I was making the comments, like, would I tell people to switch? Like, would I suggest it? No, because you are relearning. For my personal experience when it switched, I would say within the first month, I was back to being able to type comfortably, where it wasn't awful, but that was like after a full month of working on it. Again, with the keyboard that didn't have letters on it. And then it was somewhere around 3 months that I got to the point that I was typing faster than I was before the switch. So for me, it's like 3 months is about the point I'm like, okay, I feel like I've reached the point where I haven't, like, I'm no longer at a negative for switching. Which isn't that bad, but still, it's rough. I still have them blank because I got some like proper decent mechanical keyboards. Now granted, they're getting to that point where at some point I am going to need to replace the switches in them or replace the keyboard, and I haven't decided what I'm doing there yet. But I have had these keyboards for I think 10 years maybe? These mechanical keyboards. And like they're still doing fine. Like I actually replaced some of the keys because, you know, you polish the keycaps with your fingers from wear and tear. So for me, as the you use the quote-unquote nub to find home row as you move your fingers around. So the nub had worn down to the point it wasn't particularly noticeable. So I was like, okay, it's time to replace the caps. And then I got textured caps thinking it's like, okay, that'll make home row easier to find, but the texture didn't last very long. It was pretty underwhelming, honestly. Like when I say not long, we're talking didn't last for like a couple of months long. Like you can still see the texture there, it's just not, it's not pronounced enough to be meaningful. If I were to do this keyboard again, one thing I would do is I would make the keycaps on the home row a different color from the rest if I was going to not have the letters on it. Because then you can just kind of glance down and instantly see that your finger is on the different color key and know where you're at. But yeah, that is one thing for anyone who does software dev, especially in the game dev space. Keep in mind that more than one keyboard layout exists. And it's not just like me doing Dvorak and that just being a thing that's like a choice. You also have people from different countries with different languages will use like stuff like Asserti as opposed to QWERTY and a bunch of other stuff, so make sure you take into consideration that keyboards have multiple layouts. Because you will frustrate to no end your users who don't use QWERTY. And it's really easy to tackle that. The keyboard will actually have an ID that it'll provide in the hardware that says I am layout 104. You know, and you just remap your keys based on that. A lot of games do really good about it these days, but it used to be absolutely awful where I'd have to go in and redo all of my keybinds every time or switch in and out of QWERTY when I go start and stop games, which is especially annoying with games where I have to name things, because then I'd switch into QWERTY, have to name something, switch into Dvorak so I could type in the name, switch back to QWERTY, which you can just use a shortcut key to do that, but still. Because it's been long enough that I haven't used QWERTY that I can still type in it, but there's this pause that I have to take to like realign my brain before I can do it, and it's not as good as I used to be in QWERTY. I'll have to read your message here in a moment to see what you type, because I caught a little bit of it, but I can't read it all with the zombies like this. Bishukun says, can you imagine how annoyed classmates were when we were allowed to use the keyboard for literally everything since after kindergartner? Yeah, I'm assuming you use a, just because I know the individual, you use a non-QWERTY layout, I would guess? Like, I honestly don't know one way or the other, but I would just assume from my understanding of your background that there's a good chance you use a non-QWERTY layout. And sorry if you've told me this before, because it's difficult to remember everything. The one thing I will say, when I switched to Dvorak, like, the company I was working at the time had some not great business practices. It was nice knowing that no one could get on my computer, because they would go to use the keyboard and nothing would be where they thought it was, and there was no letters in the key, so it's not like they could do much. So it was always funny, because, like, alright, like, I actually had one of the other people was like, alright, you can use my computer if you want. They sat down, they spent like 5 minutes and said, I can't. Yeah, it's no letters on the keys, and it's not QWERTY layout. I use Dvorak. So my current but soon to be former boss, like the few times that we would be collaborating on something, and he was like, "Oh, here, let me just type it in real fast." Like, you know, you bounce back and forth when you're pairing. And he would laugh because if we forgot to switch the keyboard layout, he'd go, "Oh, your keyboard's still set to moon," and I'd switch it. The reason I had no letters when I was learning Dvorak, and I have the keyboards from when I was learning Dvorak, like, over 10 years ago, is to force me to learn to touch type. Because if I look at the keyboard and it does nothing, I can know that 100% without question I'm touch typing, because looking at the keys does nothing. And I made the comments like, would I recommend doing that? Probably not, honestly. I don't actually think it was a good idea in hindsight, but at the time it seemed to make sense. It was an experiment. It wasn't terrible. But, maybe not the best approach. You will learn to touch type. That, I will promise you. If you stick to it, you will learn to touch type because you'll have no other choice, but having letters on your keyboard is kind of helpful. It's almost like they did that for a reason. I haven't had compatibility issues with Dvorak at any point, honestly. Like, there's games that I have to, you know, remap the keys. But the other thing is, like, to give you an idea how non-invasive switching your keyboard layout is, technically I have both QWERTY and Dvorak installed, because that's just how keyboards work. Yeah, so I hit Windows key space, and congratulations, I'm in QWERTY. Then I hit again, I'm in Dvorak. Yeah, like it's really not bad. Back in like Windows, like late XP Vista days, yeah, switching layouts sucked. You had to go like settings, go in there, find the layout, choose the layout, switch the layout, apply. I think like in the Windows 9X days you even had to reboot when you switched the layout. But nowadays you can just hit a shortcut key and it's just switched. Usually it's strictly when he forgot that I don't use a QWERTY keyboard. It's not that you push the person out of the way, but you know, you kind of just go, oh, here, and you kind of like jump in. It's like, okay, you can't do that. And plus, it's rude to do that. It's not his computer. Like, I'm cool with it, but you know, still. You go, let me see the keyboard for a second, and I'm going to switch it before I pass it over because you learned that other people can't do it. Which is fine. They didn't learn it. They wouldn't know how to do it. But yeah, using Dvorak has not been an issue. And, like, it's very rare my wife goes to use my computer for any reason. It's been, like, only the once or twice that she's had a computer that hers was acting up, and just the same thing is hit shift space or sorry, Windows key space. And she's able to use it just fine, and the moment I go to hop back in, I hit it, and I'm right back to go. Alright, so we are back here. I'm just checking, make sure no zombies have wandered into this place. Because this is the home we kind of secured for ourselves to sleep. I don't need to check these other rooms because they're all closed up. It's unlikely anyone will be up here. Cool, we're good. And that said, I don't sit there and go, oh, look at my keyboard layout. It's better than yours. It probably doesn't matter. It's like only a thing to even consider, like if you're really that worried about RSI and that kind of stuff and you want to take the time to relearn, that is totally optional. Honestly, for actually getting the most of your mileage for like RSI concerns, just having proper ergonomics, sit, stand, desk, that kind of stuff will get way more mileage out of you. Like that's way more impactful than the keyboard layout. Oh yeah, if you're accidentally activating a different keyboard layout, it's probably the Windows key space. If I remember, I'm going to do it real fast. Yeah, it's Windows key space. And nowadays, most games, they stopped even, because like most games, when you go to your keybinds, like it'll show you, oh, the Q key, oh, the W key, oh, the this key for your actions. But a lot of games have stopped using that, and they care about keyboard position. So they're saying, oh, the key on the top left, like key ID 1 or whatever it is. So I can switch layouts in a lot of games, and it won't matter. Like, I'm switching between QWERTY and Dvorak right now, and Project Zomboid doesn't care. Like, I don't actually know which layout I'm in at the moment. I need to actually name something real fast. I'm in QWERTY. There we go. Because normally it'd be in the bottom right corner of my display in Windows, but full screen game can't see. So yeah, keyboard layouts are very non-issue, they're very non-invasive. Because like I said, foreign languages, a lot of them don't use QWERTY. Like I want to say ASCII may be the most common or second most common keyboard layout nowadays, because I want to say ASCII is very popular with like languages like Spanish, Spanish, Portuguese. There's a couple other languages that use ASCII heavily. Part of me wants to get in my car and honk my horn to draw the zombies to me. And part of me thinks that's where I bring up the message, and this is how you died. And I really am caught up between those two positions. Gotcha. Yeah, and the only two layouts I know is, I'm rusty with my QWERTY and I know Dvorak. Like, I've seen the other ones, but I've never typed in a meaningful manner, so it's a non-thing for me. I could check for a generator. No, I'm not gonna worry about the generator, because then I have to bring gas and everything, and that's just not something I need to do. Because I'm not, like, my forward bases I don't intend to use as, like, a place we actually do stuff at. It's just where we sleep at night between our fighting. So this is the Riverside Resort. It's unlikely we'll see a few zombies. Like, we actually could get 1,000 zombies here if I honk the horn. Like, this is a reasonably high pop area. It's just we've cleaned out this part of this street. And there's lots of fences that the zombies have trickiness getting around. So like, if I do the horn, I am going to be pulling the vehicle away from our house. Actually, I know what I'm going to do for the horn. We are going to use the horn, but we're not going to use it here. Now actually, before I do any horn, I should check out the houses near the fence line, because that's where most of the zombies are going to get stuck. So down in this road is the more dangerous road for having just big hordes. And also, supporting multiple keyboard layouts is a accessibility and disability concern as well. Because, for example, if you have individuals, for example, who have limited motor function, so stuff like Parkinson's or essential tremor or paralysis or anything like that, they often have to rely on non-standard keyboards because, you know, they have physical limitation. Yep, or effed up hands. I actually know quite a few people who have gotten hand injuries over the years. Okay, that zombie was weirding me out because I'm like, you look like you're inside but also not inside. And that is not cool. Choose a side of the physical object. That was the reason I kind of like backed away when I saw something. Like, I don't know what you're doing, so I'm gonna wait to figure it out. Just in case they like clip through a wall or something. So as you saw, they got side by side. I immediately turned around and just walked away. Well, I can actually probably get away with it with as much nimble as I have, but I don't want to develop bad habits because then I die and then play again with my bad habits and just die really fast because now I can't get away with my bad habits because I can't lean on nimble. Because nimble is like low-key one of the most powerful stats in the game. I do not want to be backing up into trees. Trees are a bad time and they will betray you at a moment's notice. I didn't see where the hunting knife was, but sure, I'll take a hunting knife. Yeah, nah, just making your stuff keyboard layout agnostic is good. It's like one of the million little things that isn't too hard to implement that, you know, if you do it, you've just broadened the audience that can use your game without a huge hassle. And when I say it's not a big deal, I have done some game dev, and I did that not even like a full day's work, like, is something I knocked down an hour or two. And that isn't because I'm amazing or anything, that's just, it's not a big deal. Alright, cool. You sleep well. And Fabio Sponge has decided to hit me up with some push-ups. I'm just going to finish making my salad because if I don't stick to it, I'm going to lose track, and then that'll be a whole thing. Okay, so we've got those push-ups knocked out. Everything's updated. I would really like to find a car with sirens that is actually in decent condition, like I can drive it around. Oop, hey buddy. Because if that's the case, I can sit there and run around in areas and just blare the sirens, circle back, mop up whatever they bring, and repeat until people stop showing up. But yeah, you'll notice I'm not really going into these houses. I actually don't care about the loot in them that much. Like, we might poke our nose in as we need like a little food, or if our weapon supply starts getting low. But the point of this run is just kill zombie, make them all dead. And these are the places you go to die. Because that's where you go in, you can get caught in a corner, a horde can spot you from outside and corner you in there, all that kind of garbage. Versus if you stay out of it, none of that can happen. Right, I think we're going to go back to our house because it's getting dark and rainy and awful, and I want to be out in it. Turn off the radio not to drain the battery before I hop out. Make sure no zombies are coming up. Because the danger is if I hop out and there's a zombie like coming right here, I wouldn't see it because it's behind us and it's dark. And it'd be close to that I could potentially just jump out directly into its waiting arms, and zombie love is not good love. It's very bitey. Just count a little time before we go to sleep. So I'll take apart some stuff around the house. Don't need it, don't want it. I mean, bitey can be, but there's like nibbly kind of bitey, and then I am taking part of you with me kind of bitey. Says the vampiric dragon. I'm not sure who's the vampiric dragon in this equation. I'm gonna do it. Make sure you sign your waiver first. It's very important. Oh, Enki Duel dropping in the weird flex. Dropping those points, hot, showing them off. Weird flex is best flex. You know, we haven't had a weird flex off in a while. Because that was a thing that would happen every so often in the channel, is because people would have so many points just stacked up. That was probably before the push-ups was probably the thing that changed it. But you'd have every so often, like, someone would do a weird flex, and then someone would do, like, 2 weird flexes back, and then have the back and forth. So, you know, one of them got to, like, 5 or 6 weird flexes. The other one's like, nope, I'm out. Nothing left to give. It was entertaining to see, even though it was just burning imaginary points away. But I mean, that's the whole reason it's a weird flex. Like, I got so many points that I can just torch them. Who cares? I'm not sure how that sound came across mic, but it's probably awful and I apologize. It's also always one of those things that when I see the stream statistics and I see like the clip go up, you know, I don't see it when it happened. I see that at some point someone clipped something like, okay, what would people have clipped?